a college degree, you could argue is worth over $200,000 for the median college student. That is worth, almost $250,000. That if you spend over $200,000 on a college degree, if you work it right, then it could still be beneficial to you, assuming that you get the wage growth that you're supposed to get as a college graduate. Now, the problem with that is twofold. One, you ain't white, and the fact that you're not white means that your wage is not going to be what a white college graduate's wage is going to be. In fact, I'm not sure exactly, but I think that there are studies out there that say white people with criminal records make more than black college graduates or something crazy like that. I forgot what it is, but it's something like that, right? Where basically, whiteness has a benefit, an economic benefit in a white economic system. It actually makes sense when you think about it, meaning that the people who run the businesses are going to hire people that look like them. We think that it's a big surprise and it's like, oh my God, how can they do this? This is so unbelievable. And I'm not going to say that it's right to do this. I'm just going to say that it's expected, that because actually if you look at it across the board, Asian people are more likely to hire other Asians. Black people actually hire more black people. Arabs are more likely to hire Arabs. And so the problem for black people is that you don't have enough business owners to give you a sustainable economy that allows you to really capitalize on your college degree the way you could if you were white. That's why the #1 mandate for the black community is the development of more black businesses. We need more businesses. That's what we need. We don't need more jobs. We actually need more businesses. The other factor that you got to consider is that even though I just sat here and I just made that argument that a college degree is worth over $200,000 for the median student, I'm actually going to contradict myself a little bit, because one factor that we did not account for is the fact that when you go to college, you're giving up 4 years of your life. 4 years of your life. So if you were a high school graduate who just plodded along and said, look, I'm just going to work for 4 years and I'm not going to, spend 4 years in college, well, then you would have made about an extra $100,000 during that 4-year period of time. So not only are you paying the money that it costs to go to college, but you're actually giving up all the lost income that you would have had if you had stayed and just continued to remain in the workforce. So the fact that you're giving up not just the tuition and the cost to go to college, but what they call the opportunity cost, meaning the cost of all the opportunities you're losing because you're in school and maybe you're joining the AKAs or the Q Dogs and you're partying for 4 years and having fun and learning. You're missing out on a lot of money as well. It doesn't mean that all those things can't be fun. It doesn't mean all those things can't be beneficial. It does mean, though, that there's a huge investment that you're making in terms of what you're losing that you could have had you gone straight into the workforce. Now, the other interesting factor here is that when I talk about college being worth it, even if you make the assumption that that college is worth it for the median student, which is actually quite questionable. When I did the math and I broke it all down, I said, wait a minute, oh wow, no, it actually isn't worth more than $100,000. Like basically, honestly, with the math, when I got done, I said, oh, okay. So if I were to put a number on it, I would say a college degree is worth about $100,000, right? Max, right? For the median student, about 100 grand is about what a median student should pay. But these are back of the envelope calculations, not super precise. So don't hold me to that particular number. But that's about the number that I came up with. Which is interesting because it made sense intuitively. I was like, yeah, when people get to where they're paying more than $100,000 for college, I start to feel like they're going into overkill, especially if you've got a ton of debt sitting on your lap and we don't have the discipline typically to pay off that debt. A lot of people, the debt would be fine if people were able to really, put the reins down and really focus and just get that debt paid off and move on. But we don't have a country that's built that way. We have a country that's built on extreme mass consumption. And that extreme consumption, that addiction to consumption, drives us to spend money like lunatics. We love to spend. We love to make it rain on the mall and everything else, right? And so what happens is people get that debt and they just marinate in the debt and they never get rid of the debt. So that's another factor that plays a huge part in why why college ends up ruining a lot of people financially. Because here's the thing, look, when you take on that debt, if that debt's not repaid, and then let's say that the amount of the payments in the debt are too high for you to make, then what happens is you go into default. Once you go into default, you have what I call a financial STD. The reason I call it a financial STD is because, an STD, if you think about it, what does it do? It kind of reduces your ability to have to do certain things later on in your life, to have certain relationships, things like that. You're infected in certain ways that make it harder or make people less willing to engage with you, to transact with you, right? So when you have a financial STD, meaning that you've defaulted on your student loans, then it becomes harder. Banks don't want to loan you money, so it makes it harder for you to buy a house. When you finally do get a car or whatever, they're going to charge you an insane interest rate. If you are trying to invest, you really can't invest because you got to go to work and use all your money to pay back those old student loans. The ability to develop all of the forms of financial security, like debt reduction and second and third streams of income, or maybe starting a business and quitting your job, those things kind of go away for a lot of people. So you end up getting stuck in a version of what can be called economic slavery. And I call it slavery because slavery is just a lack of freedom. Doesn't mean that you're on the plantation with Massa in 1802. Slavery means you get up in the morning, you can't do what you want to do. So ultimately, what I would definitely say for sure is that for students who are below the median, for the students that make below the median wage of a college graduate, like those who major in things that don't make any sense, that don't get them the income bump, college is not worth it for them from an economic standpoint. College might be fun, it might be a great experience, but economically, most of them are going to be sunk. They're going to be done. The students that college is most worth it for, in my opinion, are students who major in higher paying professions like accounting or engineering, and also students who paid less for school, who don't go to the schools that charge you $60,000 a year. Like I taught at Syracuse University, it wasn't worth it. That's why I created the Black Business School, because I didn't want Black people to have to spend $60,000 a year to come learn from me. So those who go to those expensive private schools, it's not a good investment. But if you go to a good solid state school where they keep your tuition down, they subsidize your tuition, and you major in something that is going to give you a good income when you get done, then college can be a very good investment. In fact, for some people, college becomes a necessity. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a nurse, you got to go to college. You can't skip college. The other key point I want to throw in here that's very important, twofold. This is for Black people. This is a special training that you get from me. This is why, again, in the Black Business School, that's why we teach very differently, because we teach specific to what Black people need. Two things. One, you tell this to your kids. If you go to college, don't be like everybody else. A lot of college students waste a lot of time. There's a lot of partying, a lot of wasted time or wasted energy, getting into nonsense. I get very frustrated when I hear about students that were in college for 6 years because they were trying to pledge a frat, or they went to college and became an alcoholic because they joined a fraternity and everybody drank all the time, or their GPA dropped because they were doing something extracurricular that had nothing to do with school. And I'm not picking on fraternities and sororities, but I'm just saying that seems to be one of the common threads, is getting caught up in a culture, and getting caught up in putting a lot of energy into things that don't add value to your life. We waste a lot of our Black excellence on step shows. Like I swear to God, if I could get Black people to be as excellent in the classroom as we are at a step show, then I would be through the roof excited. Because we will fuck up a math test, but we won't fuck up a step show. Like you won't go to a step show and get your steps out of line because people are going to make fun of you. And what that says is that we have a culture that actually supports this entertainment mindset, this sports-related mindset, right? We will encourage you and say, oh, that was amazing, that was great, that was good job, man, good job, because you did well at the step show, but we're not necessarily as enthusiastic about what you're doing academically, and there's not as much social pressure on what you're doing academically. Like if you're a student who's making D's and F's on your report cards, we won't make fun of you the way we'll make fun of you if you tripped and fell at the step show, if your weave fell off when you were stepping with the AKAs or whatever, right? And that's because our culture value, we've been trained to value all the wrong things. And I hate it because as a professor, I would just watch these people, my people, young people, being misguided and guided right down the pathway towards slavery. I'd be sitting there, I'd be thinking, gosh, in about 10 years, this kid is really going to regret the fact that he's got 168 hours in a week, and he's only spending 3 of those hours studying, and the rest of the time he's spending hanging with his boys and drinking and doing whatever, And so ultimately, we got to address that culture. But until we can address the culture, I encourage you to address the culture in your household. So in our household, I will say that all of our kids, the kids in our household, they all perform at a high level academically. My brother, the children that I've been able to influence, they always knew education was important. My goddaughter went to Columbia. My biological daughter was not raised with me. and I wish she had been, because I would have really been much more forceful in academics. But sometimes you can control things, some things you can't. I know that with my little brother, I had a huge influence on him. He went to Cornell, and I pushed him. My sister, I pushed her to become a doctor. And so my point is to say that you can't control the culture of things you can't control. You can't control what the whole Black community does, but you can control what the Black community does in your house, right? The Black community is your home. So I encourage you in your home to just say, look, if we're going to make this massive investment in college, if we're going to spend, $100,000 or whatever on this massive asset, this massive financial asset called a college degree, then we're going to get the most out of that asset. You follow me? And this is an investing concept. This is what I teach my students in the Black Stock Market program. Assets are like apple trees, or they're like plots of land, or it's like an asset is like maybe a truck that you can use to make money from that truck. So think about two people that own a truck. One person uses that truck and works that truck into the ground, delivering wood every day to make, they're making $400 a day off that truck. And the other person has a truck just sitting in the driveway. Well, the second person isn't making the best use of their asset. So some people have a college degree and they work the hell out of that thing. They go to school, they're studying their butts off, they're learning as much as they can, they're pursuing Black excellence every single day of the week, including Sunday. They are majoring in the right majors, they're networking properly, they're putting themselves in a position where they can be successful. And then you got Black people who have the same asset called a college degree, or at least an opportunity to get a college degree, and they completely waste it. Don't want to study, don't want to work hard, making fun of the Black students that do want to study hard. I used to have people that made fun of me because I was studying on a Saturday night. And I was like, why wouldn't I study on a Saturday night? If the Chinese kids can study on a Saturday night, then I should be studying on a Saturday night. I'm the one who's got the oppressor breathing down my back, trying to kill me and make me a slave and put me in prison. Why? If anybody needs to be studying, it needs to be me, right? And that was my basic logic. And I got that logic because I did not hang out with a lot of Black people, honestly. I'm not dissing my own people, but I'm saying that, the best thing that could ever happen to me, honestly, was that I wasn't around Black people all the time. I was exposed to other cultures and other communities. And so I would go around my people and they would make fun of me because of the way I talk, or they would tell me if you ever went through this. If you have people say that you talk white or you act white, or they make fun of you because you don't know how to do the electric slide, or you don't, or maybe you watch, certain jokes on Def Comedy Jam and you don't get it, even though I think Def Comedy Jam's hilarious and we're all part of the culture. But I really think that there's a benefit to people who appreciate the culture, who are close enough to Blackness to see the greatness of it and the potential of it, but far enough away to not be caught in the nonsense. Like there's some parts of our culture that are complete nonsense. Like it's like absolute simple math. It's like, wait a minute, 10 plus -50 is going to be -40. You do know you're going to be in the negative, and they don't understand it. They think there's something wrong with you. When you're like, wait a minute, no, if you have 10 and you take away 40, or you take away 50, that's going to be -40. That's going to be, you're going to have a bad life, man. But they don't get that. Like they're, oh, nigga, shut up, man. You're just talking to blah, 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 blah. You here, drink this liquor, man. Just hit this weed, nigga. You know what I mean? Excuse my French. I don't mean to cuss, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Where you have people that or you tell your friend, hey, man, you sleep with all these girls and making all these babies, child support is going to kick you in the butt one day. Like, you're not going to be able to afford to have a place to live if you keep on, if you keep making these kids and having sex with all these girls raw. And then they're like, oh, there you go, preaching again. You always preaching. And everybody wants to get mad at you like you always preaching until the consequences come in. And then when the consequences come home, people act like they had nothing to do with it. Like they don't understand like how, they're like, oh, I went to church and prayed to Jesus that my life would get better because I done been through some things. And I'm like, yeah, I know you've been through some things because I was right there with you, man. I saw you creating the life that you have right now. I saw you doing them things, and you was making fun of me because I was preaching. But now you're hearing something, but it doesn't matter. It's too late now, So my point is not to get into a soapbox. It's not me telling you that you're a bad person if you make mistakes. It's not me looking down on anybody. It's me saying that we need to wake up. The term woke really needs to be hyper analyzed for us to know what wokeness really is. Wokeness means consciousness. Being, that's why I think that any Black person who makes fun of the idea of a Black person being conscious is literally about the most idiotic son of a bitch I've ever met in my life. Why would you not want to be conscious? Why would you not want to be woke? Consciousness means that you're aware. Consciousness means that you're not acting on autopilot. You're not just doing something just because everybody else is doing it. Consciousness means you're like, wait a minute, why are we going that way? That don't make no sense. Consciousness means that you're questioning everything that you were ever taught. Consciousness means that you don't just read a book because somebody told you to read it. You read it because it makes sense for you. Consciousness means that you don't pick a path because that's where everybody else is going. You pick a path because you've thought about it. You've analyzed it. You're aware of what's going to, that path is going to get you. Right? So we need consciousness in our families. So teach your children to be conscious. So I'm not telling, I did all this math to break down and analyze the ways a college degree can and cannot be good for you. And if you want to know what's the answer, is college worth it? The answer is, well, it depends. So I'm probably going to confuse a lot of people. That's why I tell you guys this platform is for intelligent Black people, or those who want to have an intelligent conversation, because I'm going to confuse you. Because it's going to say, wait a minute, Doc, you sound like a hypocrite. You're going back and forth. 1 minute you say to do it, next minute you say not to do it. That's because the world does not operate in absolutes. The world is not black and white. The world exists in shades of gray. And in order, if you can't see things from multiple perspectives, then you're not going to understand how the whole game works. So what I'm saying to you about college in general, bottom line, is if you make the investment in college, make sure you keep the costs down. Number two, make sure that your child picks a major that is going to actually give them economic benefits. Number three, make sure they don't waste their time. Make sure that they are studying and making something close to straight A's. I taught college students for 25 years. It ain't that hard to make an A on a college campus. Most college, especially even at the top schools, the higher the level of the school, the more they pad the grades. They pad the hell out of the grades. You know, if you're a professor that tries to give D's and F's all the time in your class, then they're going to put pressure on you. So most of my students made an A or a B in my class because I didn't want to have those issues with the administration. People would make bad grades when they just didn't show up to class and didn't do what they were supposed to do. So what do I think about technical school? I think technical school same analysis applies to technical school. If it's something that's going to give you, a high income, like I called the plumber and the electrician to the house, and I wrote big old checks to both of them when they came in. So who's to say that those aren't excellent trades? I'm not, here to judge that one way or the other, and I'm also not here to poo-poo on the idea of college either. I mean, there is something that you gain from being in a space where you are encouraged to just think on a regular basis. So those of you who are college graduates, it's not, I'm not here to say, oh, it's just a complete waste of time, or oh, you shouldn't do it. There are some things that are more important than money. See, money is important when it's important, but it's not important when it's not. The money is only important because it allows you to focus on the things that really matter. So when I was out in the world trying to make more money, when I quit my job and I was trying to start a business, trying to get on my feet, I wasn't trying to be a billionaire. I was just trying to make enough money where I could then do the things that matter in my life. So instead of spending my time at a job working for some white man who hates my guts, I get to spend my time on the phone calling my mama, before she gets too old for me to spend time with her. You know what I mean? Instead of me, stressing out over stuff that, that's going on at work, I get to spend time with my woman, and she comes home and she finds me in my office every day. You see what I mean? It's about quality of life, man. That's what it's all about. It's about quality of life. That's what you're aiming for. I mean, I'm not telling you what your values should be, but you're not going to get from me like this complete paper chase where money is always the most important thing in the world, because I just don't believe that. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. What do you think about Ivy League schools? I think they're great. I was accepted to Columbia for my PhD. I did not go, but my goddaughter, she's like my daughter. I walked her down the aisle. She did go to Columbia, and I was jealous because I think it's a great school. I think Ivy League schools are cool if you can keep the costs down. And again, you got to pick the right major. Make sure you're getting the most out of your degree. And then also, I think every Black person should know the basics of starting a business. I think as a rite of passage, every Black child should know how to start a business by the age of 12. Every Black child should know how to buy a home by the age of 12. Also, every Black child should own shares of stock by the age of 12. If you want to set your children up for the next generation, you can do a couple very basic things. One, try to own your home before you die. Or two, take the amount of money you would spend on a car note, cut it in half, and get as much life insurance as you can get for that amount of money. So for some of you, it might be a $200,000 policy. Some of you might be $500,000, but get you a good life insurance policy. And then what was the third thing I was thinking about? Three, maybe over the next couple of years or next year or so, buy 2 to 5 shares of 25 different shares of stock. stock in 25 different companies, 2 to 5 shares of each one, and it might cost you maybe $5,000 or something like that. I don't know. And just hold the stock. Like, don't sell it. Hold it for like 30 years. Just hold it. Wealth comes to people who are patient. If you can just wait and just sit there and not do anything, then that's when wealth comes in. So buy the asset and just hold it. Because here's the thing. If I took you back in a time machine to 1999, there are things you could have bought in 1999 super cheap that would be worth a ton of money now. Like Amazon stock in 1999 was probably about $5. I think now it's like almost $2,000 or something crazy like that. It's some insane amount of money, right? Houses, you know, that maybe cost $80,000 in 1999 would cost $250,000 now, right? So the thing is that there are things that you can buy cheaply now that that will be worth a lot of money 20 years from now. That'll be worth a lot of money 30 years from now. So you're not living in the future, you're living in the past. You know, you're not living in this moment where everything's just overpriced. You're living in a moment where everything is underpriced if you compare it to the future. You follow me? So just keep that in mind. That's it. Let me see. Boyce, Syracuse stressed you out too. Well, Syracuse didn't stress me out. I actually decided I was going to stress them out. You know, I decided I was going to take back my power. I wasn't going to run around and allow myself to be pressured by what, you know, somebody else was doing. My decision in Syracuse was, well, if anybody's going to be stressed out, it's going to be y'all. Because I know that God built me to be a great man. God made me a king. God meant for me to be one of the greatest scholars in the history of this world. And y'all can't stop that. You know, you can't stop the flow. You can't stop the rain. You can't stop it. You can't. You know, and so ultimately, I probably sound like the cockiest son of a bitch ever, but I mean, my God, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm, you know, Muhammad Ali walked those same streets as I did, and I learned from watching him. I learned that believing in yourself is a matter of making the choice to believe in yourself. So when they would come at me with nonsense and, you know, we don't think you're good enough for this and you ain't good enough for that, all I did was I throw the ball right back in their court. I'd get that ball. I'd be like, here, back in your court. Actually, do you know that y'all have not hired or promoted a black finance professor in the last 100 years? That is so racist. You guys are really bad at identifying African-American talent. I don't even think you guys are even qualified to even evaluate me, right? So I put them on the defensive. They weren't going to put me on the defensive because I'm like, you ain't going to make me question whether or not I belong here because I know I belong. I know y'all should be happy that I took the time to even come and contribute to your campus. You know, there's no disrespect, but it was true. You know, and I think that for black people, that's what we have to do. We have to regain our power and stop letting other people make us feel self-conscious. You know, stop letting them tell you that you ain't good enough and you ain't this and you ain't that. Just keep doing your best. Hold yourself accountable now. I mean, don't walk around here lying to yourself. You got to put in the work. But once you know you're putting in that work, then you believe in yourself because they ain't no more flawed than you are. Right, but they'll get you thinking about all your flaws and all your mistakes, and so that it's not focused on their mistakes. Right, that's how the Democrats do the Republicans. The Democrats will tell you all the horrible things about the Republicans, but they won't talk about the shit the Democrats do. And then the Republicans will point out all the horrible things about the Democrats, but they won't talk about their own party. Right, that's a political trick, and I think it actually does work. You get them focusing on what's wrong with them, not on what's wrong with you. Because you're special, you're great, you're extraordinary. You got that melanin power, baby. Can't nobody stop that. So anyway, hit the thumbs up button before you go. I'm about to take off, guys. And do me a favor, if you want to get a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. Also, I have a stock market investing class. If you want to learn how to invest in the stock market, it's theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com. Don't forget, this podcast is also on iTunes. So if you download on iTunes, you can listen on iTunes. And and one more thing. Some of you had asked, how do you advertise on my podcast? You can actually advertise or sponsor a podcast if you want, and I can mention your product and stuff like that. If you go to drboyceadvertising.com, that's drboyceadvertising.com. So feel free to reach out if you'd like to advertise. All right, so I'm out of here, guys. Please have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care now. Peace.